Welcome to Anatomy Hour. I'm so happy to have you here with me today. Today we're going to be talking about the gastrointestinal system, otherwise known as the digestive system. I think it's really exciting stuff, Can you tell that I've not had people to talk to for a while? All I've had to talk to is my husband and my children, and sometimes when that happens, I go a little crazy. So, hello, welcome. And another funny thing. Have y'all ever watched like a show and then walked away from the show and started talking like the people on the show? Because we were watching this show about these Irish sailors. Yeah, I know, whatever. They were singers. But they were Irish. And I bet you I talked with an Irish accent for 2 days. So it was kind of funny, but they talk like my family talks. So my mother's family was Irish, they're still people, but anyway, it's kind of funny. Okay, we're going to talk about the digestive system today. It is March the 1st, and it is 7:34 in the evening. And I'm sorry I'm getting this to you so late. I normally wouldn't do that, but I was released to go light duty a week ago, this past Friday, so I guess about 9 days ago, or 10, whatever, I don't know, I can't count. So I got released on Friday, and on Monday I started coughing, and then my husband started coughing, and then by Wednesday I was in the doctor's office, and I had a sinus infection and bronchitis. My husband had pneumonia. One of my sons had croup, and I had other kids that just got general kind of colds, but they're all cruddy. So that's what we've been doing this week, is we have been fighting infections and colds and all that stuff. I had 2 days where I could drive around and do stuff, so it's kind of stunk. But yesterday my husband was really sick, so he's got pneumonia, so he's been sick for a few days, a week. But we're starting to feel better. I got my little handy dandy sody pop, just in case I start hacking coughing, and let's hope I don't do that. So let's see. We're in my room because my whole family is in there watching television, and they're being loud. They're watching Star Trek. I don't care anything about Star Trek right now. So I'm sitting in my little reading nook with my phone, and let's see, what else have I got here? Hey, look what I got. A back scratcher. Look at that thing. This is the stuff. So I keep it beside my bed. Plus it's also a whacker. If anybody comes in, it bothers me. So let's see. I've got my baseball bat and my BB gun out here. Everybody can see it. But if anybody comes in, they're going to get shot with the BBs. Or no, actually, my shotgun's in the closet. So I just put the BB gun over here so my kids don't get it, because I am a dead eye with that BB gun, just so you know. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about the digestive system. We're on page 408, and I think this is a lot of fun. I like this system. I like this area. I think it's really cool, and you're going to have a really cool assignment out of it. So it's going to be fun. Okay, here we go. Eating, page 408. Eating is only the first step in digestion. It's a complete process of how your body absorbs nutrients. And let me just tell you what, without a lot of the things that you eat, your body would absolutely fall apart. Okay? So first, we start with your first vocabulary word. It is mastication. That means chewing. Mastication means chewing. These muscles that go through here, these are your mastoid muscles back behind your ears, and your cheekbones got big muscles in them, and so what they do is they help your jaw go back and forth so you can chew. So what does mastication do? So it chops up the food that you put in your mouth, right? This is not a chemical change. When you put a piece of carrot in your mouth, all it does is reduce it to a smaller size, and but it doesn't change the chemical compound. You don't get anything absorbed, nutrients absorbed in your mouth when you're eating a carrot. It does not change the nature of the molecules in the food. It simply breaks down the food into smaller, more manageable chunks. How many times, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but it happened to me just the other day. I was eating a piece of meat, and it kind of started moving to the back of my throat before I was really finished chewing it up very well. So part of the meat went down, but part of it was still in my mouth. It was really funny, but it took you. So I remember going, and I'm looking at my family going, and they were like, "Are you joking?" And I'm like, "Give me a minute," because I was thinking it's either going up or it's going down. Oh, look at my hair. So I was doing all that I could to get it to go down, and praise the Lord, it did go down. So I thought that was just funny. Because your mouth, all it does is break it down. It doesn't dissolve that steak in any way, shape, or form. Your next word on page 409 is digestion. Digestion is the breakdown of food molecules into their individual components. What that means is, once you chew up your food and you swallow it and it goes to your stomach, it starts breaking down. It'll break down into fats. It'll break down into carbohydrates. It'll break down into sugars. It'll break down into the vitamins and minerals. It'll be broken down to the absolute simplest form. Okay? So that is why when you eat a carrot, it doesn't come out a carrot. Well, sometimes it might, but so but when you eat things, your body breaks it down into its simplest forms for it to be used. When you eat proteins, for example, your body cannot absorb the protein. Instead, it has to be broken down into amino acids. The amino acids then can be absorbed. In the same way, most of the carbs that you eat are either disaccharide or polysaccharide, and these have to be broken down into simple and complex sugars. The fats that you eat are chemically broken down into fatty acid molecules. So that's what it does. Your body, after you chew up your food into the smaller form for your body to be able to digest it, digestion is where it breaks it down to its simplest forms. Okay? Once the food has been physically broken down into small molecules, the digested products, amino acids, monosaccharides, polysaccharides, fatty acids, blah, 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 can be absorbed into the blood. Now, why is that so important? Okay, let's pretend that you are running a lot and you are playing with your friends and you're running, and then all of a sudden you start feeling really dizzy and you start feeling sick at your stomach and you're quivering, you're shaking a little bit. Well, that could mean that through your sweat and through your metabolism, you have burned up all of your sugars. So you may need to go get you something with sugars in it. So what are you going to eat? Are you going to eat a Snicker bar? Well, I could go for a Snicker bar. But sometimes your best choices would be something that's a carbohydrate, because when a carbohydrate is broken down, it's broken down into simpler sugars. So that might last you longer. I mean, if you ate a Snicker bar, it'll last for a little bit. I mean, it will boost your sugar up quickly, but it won't last a long time. And when your sugar drops like that, you really do need to have something that goes a long time. That is one of the reasons that a lot of times before marathons, the night before, they do what's called carb loading, which means that they eat starchy, heavy foods to be able to give their body more nutrients to hang on to and use the next day. Okay. Overview of the digestive system. I'm going to sit back in my little chair. I'm a mess today. So sorry. The digestive system can be split into two parts: the alimentary system, and also known as the alimentary tract, and the gastrointestinal tract or GI tract. And the accessory organs. The alimentary canal is the canal through which food travels on its way from the mouth to the anus. So basically, it's what my granny used to say, from the rooter to the tutor. Okay, that is where the tube. You got one tube coming in here or out, and you've got another tube going in or out on the bottom. Okay, so that tube system is your alimentary system. Okay, so let's look at the picture on page 410. At the very top, we're going to start with both the tongue and the salivary gland. We're going to follow some food through your body here, okay? So let's see. Let's start with your tongue. Your tongue is a muscle. Did you know that? Did you know your tongue is a muscle? And the next time that you sit down and let's say you're eating a hamburger bun or a piece of bread, you don't just lay your tongue flat and you don't do that. You kind of move your bottom jaw around a little bit. I mean, you're not a llama. You're not a llama or a camel. But your tongue helps move food around. It also, the pressure from your tongue can help put pressure on your salivary glands. That's your spit glands. That's what we're talking about here on the left-hand side. And the spit glands have little enzymes in them that start to moisturize, put some spit in your food so that you can swallow it. So your tongue turns your food, okay, into like a little ball. It's called a bolus. And then the salivary gland squirts out spit so that it turns into the round, softened ball. It's bolus, but the material is then called chyme. It's your mushed up food, okay? Now, look at the left-hand side of the page. Up top, it says the pharynx. The pharynx is also called the back of your throat, okay? The pharynx is your throat. Have you ever been to the doctor and he says, oh, you have pharyngitis, and it sounds like, how long do I have? Well, it's just simply a sore throat. It's a red, swollen throat. So on the right-hand side, you're going to see in blue that the larynx and the trachea are listed, but those are for your respiratory system, and we're not talking about your lungs or your trachea. We are specifically talking about the alimentary system that actually goes from your mouth to swallow through your stomach. So it's not going to get to your stomach through your lungs. So then we have our esophagus. Now look very closely. Your esophagus goes down. I mean, it starts at the same hole through the back of your throat that your trachea might. But look here, right about the larynx where your voice box is, you have that little flap, and there it's called your epiglottis. And the epiglottis, when you're swallowing, closes your airway off. And when that happens, you're able to swallow without any food, any liquids, or any particles going down your into your lungs. So you don't aspirate. Why do I keep doing that? You don't aspirate. I just got to move my hands. So you see that the esophagus is the tube that leads to the stomach. Now, there are muscles in the esophagus, and there is a part that when you get to part of your esophagus, it has these rings in it. Matter of fact, do this. I'm sorry, I've been drinking my soda. If you run your hands like this, you can feel rings. You can feel some rings. And those rings can be part of your trachea or part of your esophagus. Those muscles in your esophagus, once stuff gets to the back of your throat, it's going to go, the esophagus will start pulling it down, okay? And as it pulls your food down, it goes into your stomach. Now, this is a cool part. So, what if the act of those muscles pulling down is called peristalsis? Now, let's imagine that we're nauseous, which I was for several weeks. Let's imagine that we're nauseous. And you know the feeling of nausea, and you can kind of feel where your food is gonna, or something you've drank is gonna come up, or just that yellow bile. So what that is instead of the food being swallowed and going down, that muscle starts to push things back up. And the reason that it'll push things back up is, one, for a virus, like if you have a stomach bug, your body will try to get rid of the virus, so you'll throw up. What if you ate something that was bad? You'll throw up. Sometimes hormones play into that. Sometimes nervousness plays into it. What happens when you swallow down into your stomach, that's called peristalsis. Nausea is a result of reverse peristalsis, where stuff comes up instead of down. It stinks. It is no fun. Nobody likes to throw up. Okay, now let's go down to the stomach. The esophagus runs straight down into the stomach. Now look at that stomach. That's a good sized stomach there, huh? When you're little, your stomach is about the size of your fist. And typically it should stay throughout your life a little size of your fist or a tad bit bigger. The thing is, as Americans, we eat this big, I mean, your mama might not have told you, but when I was a little girl, my mama used to say, eat all your food because you don't want anything to go to waste. And I remember having to clean my plate when I was completely full. I was not hungry. I did not want to eat. And my mother would make me clean my plate. So I was always one of those kids that if you make me a plate this big for Thanksgiving, I have to eat the whole thing. And turns out that's not a very healthy thing to do. If you're not hungry, don't eat. So, I mean, in a general sense. But my point in saying that is the American stomach has grown quite a bit larger. So they invented what's called the bariatric surgeries. And bariatric surgeries are where they go in and either staple or bypass the stomach. Yeah, a lot of times they'll take the esophagus or a very small portion of the stomach and they will connect it to the small intestine. And it saved many a life for people who have gotten really heavy and morbidly obese, meaning that they could die because of their being overweight. And then some people just do it, who have the money to pay for it, do it because they feel like they're heavier than they should be. And so, but it's a very difficult surgery. It's hard because some of the time, I mean, after surgery, those people can't have more than 1 or 2 ounces of food or drink at a time. I mean, let's see, this is 16 ounces. That would be 8 meals. That's something. It's really hard. But like I said, for many people, it saves their life and their health. But your stomach can vary in size according to how much you eat. Okay. So your food goes down into your stomach. Inside of your stomach, you have several layers. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Digestive juices are released. Acidic juices are released in your stomach. When the acidic juices are released into your stomach, it starts to break that. That's your, we talked about how you chew your food up and break it down. Well, now your first chemical reaction starts taking place. The acids in your stomach start to break down all of the food that you put in that belly of yours. Okay. So, also the stomach moves. It churns a little bit. And as it churns, it'll secrete acid. Now, how does your stomach have acid in it? Well, you've got these little layers in your tummy. I've used belly, tummy, all those good things now. So in your stomach, besides there being all that acid, do you remember when we talked about the goblet cells, the snot cups? Those are in your stomach. And the snot cups will release mucus, remember? So the mucus covers the lining of your stomach, and the acid does not affect this lining of your stomach because of the mucus. Now, when somebody gets ulcers, that is when the things like stress and foods, allergies, things like that can go into your stomach and it causes too much acid. And the overproduction of acid will actually melt away those layers of mucus and burn holes in your stomach and in your intestines. Happens all the time. So we're in the stomach. Now the food is being broken down. It's more of a liquid form. There's still chunkies, but your stomach will work on the chunkier parts. And then it starts to move from your stomach into your small intestine. Let me see. I'm giving a lot of information, so I want to make sure that I want to make sure where I'm at, that I cover all my bases. Okay? Because what I'm doing with this, instead of walking you through the book like I normally do, where you can just follow it all the way, I'm giving you a ton of information as we go. Okay, so let's see. Like I said, I just want to see where I'm at. Man, I'm telling you, I'm falling apart today. But that's nothing new for me. You all know I fall apart all the time. I'm looking for it. Maybe I didn't include it on here. I didn't. Okay, I didn't because it's in next time. Okay, so your stomach continues to break down the food that you eat and the chyme. Remember I said it's got a lot of spit in it, and so it's got a chyme in there. So then your stomach passes that on into your small intestines. Your small intestines is twisty, windy, windy, and it's really, really long. And during the time that your food passes through your small intestines, your small intestines have a lot of blood vessels in them. And so your body starts to absorb the nutrients. So let's say, oh man, we've been on this orange kick. One of my girlfriends brought me some oranges while I was really sick and couldn't feed my family, couldn't take care of myself. So one of my girlfriends brought me some oranges, and I was like, it tasted so good. I mean, it was just something that I could eat because I couldn't eat for a while. And it was something that I could eat, and she brought it to me, so we've been buying oranges ever since. Okay, so let's say we ate this orange, and I chew it up, and it's orange juice, pulp, all that good stuff. And it goes to my stomach, and all that pulp is being, and you know, the little fleshy skin-like part on the out, not the rind, that's not what I'm talking about, not the peeling, but the inside part, you know, that kind of looks kind of white when it's on your orange. So you swallow it down, your stomach starts to break that down. As it goes into my intestine, my small intestine, then the nutrients are absorbed. And that is where I get vitamin C, or any of the nutrients that's in my orange is in my small intestine. Another thing that happens is when those things are absorbed, then it goes into my large intestine, and you can see that on your paper here. And so the large intestine goes up, across, and down. That is your ascending, transverse, descending colon. Okay, so in that area of your bowel, your body starts absorbing water from this material. If it moves really quickly, then you end up with diarrhea because you don't have enough water absorbed out of that bowel. So in a typical time, a typical day, you will have the water will be pulled from the food as it passes through that bowel, and it turns into feces. It's the waste. It's the leftover stuff. We've absorbed our nutrients. We've absorbed the vitamins. We've absorbed the fluids. Now all we have left is the leftovers, the goop. And the goop is your poop. And if you'll look down, the next thing to look at there below your intestines, see how it kind of turns up and then shoots down? Right there is your rectum. Now, your rectum is kind of like, if you will, a bladder for poop. It's a place that there are a lot of nerves, a lot of, a, your body has a lot of sensation there. We all know that because every one of us has pooped and every one of us has been really had to go. I mean, like, it's like those nerves let your brain know, hey, I got to find a bathroom because, oh, I got to go. You know that. So, and sometimes you're like, I feel like I might be able to go poop. So you go to a bathroom, you take your time. But then there's other times that you're like, oh my gosh, Lord help me, I'm going to die. So it's full of nerves there, but it collects the poop as it comes down. Now, ideally, poop would be very soft and formed, but very soft. And if it's too runny, that means that your bowel is not processing the fluid, and that's not healthy. If it absorbs too much fluid, it could be like little goat balls, those little tiny poops that are hard and hurt. And that could be very dangerous for your bowels. If you don't poop within a certain amount of time, and you can get constipated. That means that it backs up, it gets hard, and you can't get it out. It's so big now, you can't get it out. So there's lots of treatments for that, where you can take medicines that cause fluid to be released into that fecal material, and it comes out a little bit easier, but it's not comfortable. Okay, so that is the itty bitty get to it for how this works, how your gastrointestinal tract works. Okay, the alimentary system. Remember, rooter to tutor. Okay, now what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to scan through here and make sure that I covered everything. Let's see. The chyme is what you swallow. In the small intestine, the food molecules are digested and most of the nutrients are absorbed. Then the nutrients pass by the liver. Well, the liver has all kinds of enzymes, and sometimes by how much fat or how much sugar that you have in your diet, it can go by there, and your body senses that's a lot of sugar, that's a lot of fat, and so it starts putting out more enzymes to help break those sugars down. And that also works with your not your lymphatic. I totally lost my train of thought. It's not my train of thought. I lost my word is what it was. It's your gland, not your lymphatic. Good Lord, Brandy. Endocrine system. Oh, it's been a long couple months. Oh, and now I'm looking at your kidneys. Hang on, I got to get back to my spot. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. So bile from the liver is concentrated and stored in the gallbladder. And when you have something really fatty or something really sugary, then it'll shoot that out there to help break it down. Now, funny story. So when I was pregnant with my first daughter, my first child, I was very big. I was so sick. I actually lost 22 pounds during that pregnancy, but my belly was so far out that I couldn't even touch my fingers, and I was really big. So after I had the baby, she was 6 or 7 weeks old. Patrick and I decided to go on a date and leave her with my mother, and so we left her with Mama, and Patrick and I went to Ye Olde Steakhouse. Y'all ever been there? It's this place out on Chapman Highway. And man, they got this big old porterhouse steak. And it was huge. Had to be this thick. I kid you not, y'all. It was so stinking big. What was I thinking? And they had these things called shed shed potatoes, like backyard shed. That's I can't remember. Shed something. Anyway, they were like these little fried potatoes that, with onions and stuff in them, like Mama made. And so I sat down and I got about halfway through that steak and I had to eat those potatoes. And I looked at Patrick and I said, I'm sick. He said, well, look what you've been eating. So we leave and go home. And what had happened was during my pregnancy, I was so big that it pushed my intestines up underneath my rib cage here. And it squished my gallbladder. And my gallbladder went flat. It could no longer take any fluids from the liver. It was really, really flat and like glued together. So when I ate that, my liver is pushing some bile out. My gallbladder is not opening. And it's supposed to be holding all that fluid to help digest that. So I go home and I'm throwing up and it's just a mess. And in the middle of the night, I got up and the pain was so bad that I told my husband, I wrote him a letter telling him how to take care of our little girl because I felt like I was dying. It was horrible. Gallbladder pain is terrible. And the next day I had to have emergency surgery and have it removed. And apparently I lived. So your gallbladder, you can live without it. But what they would do at that point is just take that main bile duct that goes from the liver to the gallbladder, and they just directly put it to your intestines. And some people can't eat stuff anymore, like gassy foods, like broccoli and, beans that might make you fart or something. And they can't eat heavy fatty meats. I've had no problem. I'll eat it no matter what. But this gallbladder, it has an important role in digestion. Your liver has an important role in digestion. So like we had talked about before, after those break down into their most simple forms, then it goes to your large intestines, gets rid of some fluid in there, and comes out as poop. All right. When you eat higher protein meals like steaks, chicken, even natural proteins like tofu or edamame or something like that, soy products, they tend to stay in your stomach longer because they're harder to digest. Just imagine if you eat a big old steak, you feel it for a while, right? If you eat a big old hamburger, you feel it sitting in your gut for a while. But if you have a salad, a couple hours later, you're light as a bird, right? So in order for your food to digest, it starts going through the small intestine, and the small intestine usually takes between 1 and 4 hours to fully break down your food. Again, that depends on what you eat. So if you eat something really heavy and protein rich, as opposed to something starchy and light, and crackers, something to that effect, then that's where your time variant happens. So now, the amount of time that waste product stays in the large intestine varies greatly, depending on the person involved in the food that was eaten. The shortest time that it would typically be in there is about 6 hours. But a refined meal, low in fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, may take several days for it to make it through the large intestines. Don't be that person, okay? Don't be the person that eats such crap that literally, that it takes you several days to move through your system. That is not healthy. It's not mentally healthy. There's a big commercial out right now about a product that it helps your bowels move, and it says it keeps you from being irritable. And that is the truth. When people have a backed up colon, when people are not pooping enough, those toxins are still held in your body and it makes you feel horrible. Don't do that. Don't do that. Always make sure that you're going. My personal preference is that people go every day. If you can't go every day, every other day. Excuse me, I keep on hiccuping. I just ate supper. But if you can't go every day, then or every other day, by the time you hit day 3, you need to start drinking a lot of fluids and getting up, walking, and moving around because you need to go. Okay. Let's see. As part of your gut, there is also, it's called a vermiform appendix. Vermiform means worm-like. So your little appendix dangles on a space right at the beginning of your, where your large bowel starts. It's at the very bottom of your large bowel on the right-hand side. Typical age for someone to have a ruptured appendix or an infected appendix is either 10 or 19. I was 19. I've seen many children, but the average age is 19. So some people believe that it has no use at all. Other people believe that your appendix is part of the lymph system. So I have to tell you this because I tell it to every one of my classes. Things that are in your appendix, what would you imagine would be inside your appendix? Think about it. It's stuff you've eaten, okay? So the weirdest, most common thing to be in your appendix, this is gross, hair and fingernails. Those are the most common things to be inside your appendix. Hair and fingernails. Sometimes you'll get little grains of like, I think it's long grain rice. It's the brown rice that's kind of long and hard. I think that's longer, or I don't know, whole grain. I don't know. What do I know? I eat jasmine rice. So, but little crispy foods like that, seeds, things like that sometimes can be in there. But the craziest thing I've ever seen the only crazy thing I've ever seen besides fingernails and hair that comes out of an appendix when it's removed was I don't have one in here, was the spring to an ink pen. You know, when you take your ink pen apart and inside there's that little spring. Yeah, I was working a surgical rotation and somebody had obviously swallowed that part of an ink pen, and that little spring was in their appendix, and it caused it to get infected, and the infection caused them to have it removed. But isn't that funny? Fingernails. Okay, so let's go to page 413. Let's see. The digestive system, we're looking on page 413. The digestive system starts at the mouth, right? Because, like I said, rooter to tutor. Hang on, my family is being very loud downstairs. So, the digestive system starts in the mouth. The teeth are made of hard bone-like material and are surrounded by soft, shock-absorbent gums. Now, we all know this, right? I'll let y'all look at my teeth. Teeth are hard. I mean, how many times have you bit into something? How many times have you bit into something and thought, oh, Lord, I think I broke my tooth? And it didn't, because your teeth are very, very hard. But they got these shock absorbers up here. I'm going to show you my teeth. Oh, see my birds? My daughter trained me birds. I like birds. So, up here you can see how your teeth are rooted. Like I have a crooked tooth back there. And that's after braces. So anyway, these are where your teeth are rooted. You can put your finger in your mouth and feel way up there. Holy cow. This one goes all the way up to here. That's insane. How cool is that? I'm going to put you back down. I scooted it back too far. Here I am. Okay. So your teeth are one of your first forms of digestion but breaking down your foods, because it's what breaks down your foods. You have, let's see if we're talking about this part. Yes. See if we're talking about this now. I've taught this so many times. I literally could do it in order with my eyes closed. So These teeth right here, take your finger, your thumb, okay, and take your finger and feel there's like an edge on these teeth right here. You can feel it. Go ahead and feel it. Get low. You're at home. But you can feel a sharp edge. What this does is this lets us bite like into an apple. These teeth are a little bit more flat. They will cut in, but they're called incisors because they incise, they cut. These teeth cut. Now, excuse me. Where'd my place go? I lost my place. I don't know what I did. Beep, 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 beep. Your incisors cut your food. Your canines, those are the pointy teeth. Your mama called these eye teeth and these stomach teeth, but these are your canines because they look like dog's teeth. They are to tear food. So think about doing this. When you snap into a Slim Jim, isn't that what the commercial says? Snap into a Slim Jim. So if you're going to bite into a Slim Jim, I'm going to demonstrate on my pencil, but I won't bite my pencil. So if I'm going to bite, I'm not going to go, oh, I love my Slim Jim. No. Everybody puts it right here. See that? I didn't even have to look at that because I love me a Slim Jim. And when you bite into it, everybody bites right here because that's what's going to tear it away. Get you a piece of beef jerky. The teriyaki comes pretty good. Barbecue comes pretty good. But get you some of that, and you won't be going, oh, this is so good. No, you're going to put it right here because naturally it's going to go there so you can tear into it. Laffy Taffy. If you put it right here, you're going to pull them teeth out. Everybody puts it right here. Got it? So, then you have, your premolars, your second premolars, your first molar, your second and third molar. Those molars are flat. Let's see. See? They're flat. These are sharp, like knives. These are terry. They'll terry. These will tear. And then you get back to these. And these are flat. Right here. And that flatness will grind all your good stuff, right? That'll grind all that good food. You might cut something with your front teeth, like an apple, but you don't go and eat it with your front teeth. No. Now, babies do because that's all they got is front teeth, right? So my hair keeps on coming down, y'all, and I won't take it down right now. That's one thing y'all going, y'all ain't going to say I'll get my hair cut next week. But daggone, man, my hair's long. It has gotten really, really long, and it's driving me crazy. So, getting it cut next week. Can't stand it. So, anyway, your teeth will cut, tear, and grind everything down. Now, one thing that I do need to point out that I may not have, there are glands, like I said before, in your cheeks, and they are your maxillary glands. They're right here, submaxillary glands, that means below your jaw. There are parotid glands that are right here, and there are underneath your tongue, sublingual glands. All of those secrete spit, but the largest one is your parotid gland. And saliva is a mixture of about 99% water and then other enzymes and chemicals and spit. It just makes it really spitty and snotty. Let's see. Get this. Your salivary glands secrete about 1 liter of fluid a day. This much a day. Ooh, this much spit. Then again, if you live with my son-in-law, you know that. Because he chews, he dips. And when he dips, he can feel one of these things. That's nasty. That's gross. Now, we're going to talk about deglution on page 415. We're almost done. Talk about deglution. Deglution is the act of swallowing. It's kind of like a deluge. Y'all know what a deluge is? It's a big flood. It's like where water gushes in. Well, this is kind of like a deluge, but it's a degluge. So the degluge is the act of swallowing. This is funny. I wrote, this is funny, so read it. When you were a kid, you probably had the experience of laughing while drinking milk. Everybody knows what I'm going to talk about. Of course, you found out that this was a bad thing because milk would come spraying out of your nose. This is because of the action of the soft palate. When you're breathing quietly, the soft palate hangs down, completely closing off your mouth. But when you swallow, it shoots up. And sometimes you can breathe in by accident while you're trying to swallow, and it just goes out the wrong hole. You get tickled. But let me tell you what's worse than shooting milk out your nose. Oh, it's acid. It burns. And that ain't funny. I shouldn't have even said that was funny because I'm not funny. Let's see. We talked about reverse peristalsis. We talked about peristaltic waves. That's where you swallow. And there's a point in the back of your throat to where you no longer have control over the swallow, kind of like when I was telling you about me eating a piece of meat. Part of it was already being taken over by my body, and part of it I still had control of. So I had to make the choice. Does it go up or does it go down? So I looked like a like a bird. You know, that'll be the highlight of my thing. It'll show a picture of me doing like that. I guarantee it will. So anyway, I was like trying to choke it down because your body takes over with those peristaltic waves and it'll start pulling your food down, okay? And that's what happened there. Now we're going to talk about the stomach. This is so exciting. I love this part. And I really wish I had my board in here because I'd like to draw this. But I don't have my board right now, but I'll have it next time, okay? Let's look at the picture on page 418, and we are going to close this section out by talking about the stomach. Okay, here is your tummy tum-tum. Let's look at the different areas of your stomach. First, let's look at two different sphincters. Sphincters are tight, round muscles. They're in a circle, like a sphere. A sphincter, they're circular, and they clench, keep stuff out, and open to release things, okay? You have two sphincters at your stomach. The first one, as you can see on your picture, is the lower esophageal sphincter. That is where the esophagus connects to the stomach. Now, that is a very important sphincter to have because when you're eating, that will close down, and when you swallow and the food goes in your tummy, in your stomach, I'm sorry, I have 8 children, and when your food goes in your stomach, then it, with all those acids churning, that sphincter closes up so that keeps the acid in the stomach and not up here, okay? The next sphincter is the pyloric sphincter, and sphincter. I said sphincter. That's a different sphincter. It's a sphincter. We'll talk about that next time. So the pyloric sphincter is a ring-like muscle that opens and closes the orifice at the bottom of your stomach where it attaches to your small intestine. That's important too, because you really don't want those stomach acids in the small intestines as well. Now, there is some stomach acid in the small intestine, but it's not near as great as it is in the stomach, okay? So, let's see. Let's look over here on the left at the little purple, turquoise, green, and red, or orange, or whatever that is. It's kind of dark in here. fundus. That is the very top of the stomach. The fundus means the top cone area, and that's what that is. You can see that. You can see where the end of the esophagus comes together. You can see what's called the cardiac region. Within that cardiac region is that lower esophageal sphincter. A little bit further down, the purple area is the body of the stomach. That's the biggest portion of the stomach where all this churning and acid breakdown is done. Then you have where it's starting to narrow down to go into the small intestine. You have the pylorus. That is why it's called the pyloric sphincter, because within the pylorus is the pyloric sphincter. It's kind of like the gatekeeper. It makes sure that everything will be released at due time. Things need to be digested in your stomach for quite a while, so it's a good thing that it kind of hangs on to that. Now let's look at this cool part. Man, I wish I could draw it for you. Okay, on the right side, the very outer layer of your stomach is called the serosa. Serosa. My name is Serosa. It's called the serosa. And it is the outermost layer. Remember, it's called the serosa because it is a serous lining. Remember that all of your organs have a serous lining. It's what keeps them from sticking together. Remember that? So this is the serosa. Now, the next one is called the longitudinal muscularis. So let's think about that. That muscle, now on the picture, see, that's why I like to draw it. On the picture here, think about, instead of looking at three little spaces there, look at in the middle. I wish they were colored differently. But instead of looking, it's the second layer right below the serosa, okay? The longitudinal muscularis, what does that mean? The long muscularis muscle. This is the long muscle. Excuse me. And it is deep underneath the serosa. I'm so sorry. Matter of fact, I'm going to pause it for a second. Okay, I think I'm okay. My legs are itching now. I'm just itchy all over. I got really hot. Telling you about the longitudinal muscularis. So this is a muscle that is underneath the serosa that is long. Guess what it does? When it contracts, let me move my head. When it contracts, it does this. Okay? It contracts like this, up and down, longitudinal. The next one is the circular muscularis. It's below the longitudinal muscularis. So the top layer is your serosa. The next layer is a muscle that's doing this. The next muscle is doing this. It goes in a circle around and it does this. Got it? So at the same time you have a muscle doing this, the muscle below that is doing this, like a wash tub. Okay? Then you have your oblique muscularis. That means that it's going in at an angle. So this muscle underneath the circular muscularis is the oblique muscularis, and it is doing this. So what we have here is the serosa, longitudinal, circular, oblique. Your stomach is doing like this to help turn that stuff, to help get those juices flowing, to get all that gastric juice in there to break all your stuff up, okay? Then you have the innermost lining of the stomach, and that is in a picture down here called your mucosa. The mucosa, remember how we talked about before? While we're looking at the picture here that says mucosa, the little subset picture, think about this. Think about how we talked about, would you rather have skin that goes straight or skin that does like this? The wavy skin gives us a larger surface area. The stomach does the same thing. It gives a larger surface area for nutrients to be broken down and to begin preparing your body for the absorption, okay? There are lots of blood vessels and nerves in there. And if you're hungry, if you feel hungry, your nerves are saying to that, let's move some air through, because this person has got to know that they're hungry. So my body has to tell me so. So that's what happens here. These little gastric pits holding all of that juicy juice, they're just sitting there waiting to go, to be squished and to be pushed from all these muscles. And it's got that extended area to do it. And then you've got the mucus, the goblet cells in there that are going, doing all of the mucus in there to protect the lining of your gut. But there's blood vessels, there's nerves, so that your body can do the work, the messages can be sent to your brain. Now, have you ever sat down to eat dinner? Thanksgiving, let's say Thanksgiving. Have you ever sat down to eat Thanksgiving dinner and you eat so much that you're going, you arch your back and you can't breathe? That's because those muscles are doing this. They're doing all of that to try to get that food digested, and it's working so hard that your stomach just goes, it just kind of cramps up, tightens up, and it'll make your gut feel horrible. And so that's what happens when you eat too much. It just takes a little bit longer to get all that stuff melted down and taken care of. Now, let's see. I already said that. Don't need to say that. That's it. Okay, we're hit right at the 1 hour mark, which I'm really glad of. So this week, if I were you, I would just work on read. We're reading from page 408 to 423, module 13, 408 to 423. Read it. You have some coloring book pages. Looks like you've got 2 sets of coloring book pages there, and you have, wait a minute, that might just be, yeah, you've got 2 sets of coloring book pages, and you've got to 13.5. You've only got 5 on your own, okay? Next time, we'll talk more in detail about the small intestine. We're going to do this in class because I'm going to be back on March 22nd. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in class. We're going to talk about the function of the small intestine, large intestine, the, let's see, accessory organs, and some information about nutrition. Not a whole lot, because that's not in, yeah, we're going to cover a little bit of it. But before I go way beyond that, you'll notice that your test for this module is a paper. What I've done is I've given each of you, some of yours are different. They give you different foods. There's 2 or 3 different copies that I've put in there. But in your stuff, I'm starting to tell you about this dinner that I had and all the food that I ate. And I want you to describe for me each item. Okay? So you could say that, let's say I had a hamburger with cheese and tomatoes and lettuce. You would describe for me how the bun is broken down, what my body absorbs from the bun. What does my body absorb from the tomato and the lettuce? What breaks down the proteins in my hamburger? What breaks down the fat in the cheese? What breaks down the starches in the fries? Where are those things absorbed? What is broken down into? I have had kids before write things like, you ate a hamburger You chewed it up in your mouth, swallowed it, it went in your stomach, gastric juices were released, nutrients were absorbed in your mouth. I mean, okay, I want to know specifics. This is a good paper, okay? It counts as your test, and it counts as your module test. I'm thinking of biology 1 real quick, so don't do that. This counts as your module test this time. So if you want to, go ahead and look and see what you got. Go ahead and look and see which one you have. Is it a steak or mashed potatoes, or is it a hamburger with french fries or desserts and stuff like that? I want to know how it's processed through my body and why it comes out brown and stinky. Okay, and we're going to learn more about it next week, but I want you to go ahead and start thinking about how you're going to put that together. Sometimes it's a lot easier to start, and then when we learn more next week, finish it up. So I think you're going to do great. This is a lot of fun. I like this part. Module 14 is the respiratory system. It's what we'll do here in a few weeks. We'll get through the respiratory system, and then module 15 is our last module, and we work on that module in class in one day, and I like to play a game with it, so I think it's fun. Everybody seems to enjoy it, so we do an in-class game kind of thing. So anyway, so this week, do your reading, do those on your own, go ahead and get the color pages finished, and then next week, not next week, I'll see y'all in class. Please try to finish it this week, because this first section, because I want you to get to have your 2 weeks off. There is no work over the 2 weeks, the 8th and the 15th. There's no work. So get your work done this week, okay? And that way you can enjoy your 2 weeks break. And I cannot wait to see you guys. I love you and miss you so much. I look forward to seeing you super soon. Bye.